Beautiful. We have attendees joining us. We're about 118. All right. And then YouTube Live is going live right now. Give us about 30 seconds. There we go. We're live.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Juan Fregoso. I'm District Director for Councilwoman Tracy Park. We thank you all for joining us. We are giving everybody just a quick minute to hop on in, and we are going to get this started probably in the next minute or two. So thank you all and welcome. We'll get started very shortly. All right, everybody, welcome again. I see our participant flow is kind of stabilizing at roughly 160 people right now. We do have a pretty extensive agenda today, and we want to make sure that we get to as many questions as we can. So with that, we want to get our meeting started, and I will hand it over to Councilwoman Tracy Park.
All right. Thank you, Juan, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening for another important town hall with DWP concerning plans for Pacific Palisades. I also want to thank DWP and their team for their time and for joining us this evening. Also wanted to take a moment and thank you for the additional water tenders during the duration of our recent weather event. You may remember a couple of weeks back, we did probably a month or so ago now, actually it's been, a town hall with DWP where we did a general overview and presentation of some of the very big things that DWP has in the works for Pacific Palisades, including the undergrounding, long-term plans for Santa Ynez Reservoir, as well as upgrades to your water and your power systems. If you missed that, we are happy to put the link to that webinar in the chat so you can go back for the general overview and update. As a result of that meeting, we had agreed that we would come back and do some additional individual sessions. We are very much looking forward to doing this session this evening, which is going to be geared towards the professionals and builders and contractors and designers to go over questions and concerns and information that you all need to have right now about the efforts underway in the Palisades and what you need to do as you plan for your rebuilding efforts. In coming weeks, we are also going to bring DWP back to do a deeper dive into their plans to expand Distribution Station 29. That's the DWP building on Sunset. You may remember in recent weeks, we have made announcements that DS 104 near Marquez Knowles Elementary School is no longer under consideration, and that is in large part because of the upgrades that DWP is planning to make at the other location. So we will do a deep dive into that. We are also going to bring them back and do another session on the Sunset Via de la Paz water rehab station. And then separate from those webinars with DWP, we are currently in the process of working with our city departments and the mayor's office to bring you departments like planning, building and safety, and others involved in the permitting process to do a general overview of the process, best practices, frequently asked questions, and mistakes to avoid that can actually cause delays. So stay tuned for announcements as those meetings get scheduled. As always, we will put them out in my newsletter, which you can sign up to receive at cd11.lacity.gov. So tonight we are going to be doing a deep dive into the plans for undergrounding in the Palisades. And we are going to talk about a number of topics, including water service reconnections. We are going to do a brief recap of undergrounding from our last meeting, the Sunset Backbone Progress Report, rebuilding and LADWP's permitting process, customer updates, rebuilding and the Home LA incentive program, and billing resumption updates. So as I mentioned before, when we made a commitment to make undergrounding a possibility, a reality for you in the Palisades, we knew that there might be some trade-offs. We know that there are concerns and questions about what that infrastructure will be, what it looks like, what homes may be impacted, who will be able to participate, how easements and the right-of-way and all of those things will need to be handled. So those are going to have to be ongoing conversations and issues that we will address as we go on. I want to also acknowledge that we have the team from AECOM here with us this evening. As you all know, AECOM is working across city departments as they prepare the long-term operations and logistics plan for the comprehensive rebuild. So we thought it was important for them to be here as well to hear this discussion so that they can be of assistance if needed from any issues that come up tonight. We're going to answer questions in the chat. So feel free to put them there. We are going to try to take as many of them as we can. But let's get through the main presentation before we turn to questions. So with that, I am going to kick it over to DWP to walk us through tonight's jam-packed presentation. The floor is yours.
Hi, Council Member. This is Anselmo Collins from the water system. So as you can see here in this slide, it kind of gives you a quick rundown on the agenda for today. I am going to be covering the Sunny Nest Reservoir and also the water service reconnections. We're also going to hear from the power system, from Dave Hansen, who's going to talk about the Sunset Backbone, as well as rebuilding the new power service connections. And Mr. Joe Ramallo is going to be covering the resumption of billing as well as home LA incentives. If we can go to the next slide. Great. Once again, my name is Anselmo Collins, head of the water system. And the first slide that we have here is to show a couple of things. First of all, the Sunny Nest Reservoir was returned into service on June 25th of this year. The picture that you see on the left is actually prior to the reservoir being refilled. If you look at it carefully, you can see a little bit of water on top of the cover. That is because this is when the cover still had the tears in them and some of the pinholes that we had found through our inspection of the cover itself. The picture that you see on the right, however, if you notice the footprint of where the cover is sitting flat is a lot larger. That's because this was taken in June when there was water underneath the cover. And I know that even though we've mentioned on a few occasions the reservoir is back in service since June, we do have a lot of questions from the community about whether or not the reservoir is operational. And I want to assure you the reservoir is operational. The purpose of the floating cover is to protect it from the environment. So you're not supposed to see the water when the floating cover is properly doing its job. And that's what you see on the right image on this slide here. So the reservoir cover itself, to better explain it, is a flexible material. So it does drape on the slope of the reservoir. And then once it gets on top of the water, then you see it flat. So we can see how people who are looking at the reservoir from a particular distance might think that the reservoir is empty. But the reservoir actually has on average around 65 million gallons of water. So you're talking about over 40 feet of water that are below that cover that you see there right now. But clearly, once again, from afar, it's easy to believe that the reservoir is empty because it's hard to see that perspective as compared to when you're seeing it on this picture over here. So if we can go to the next slide. What we're trying to demonstrate here is just to give another view of what it would look like. The picture on the top shows the reservoir empty, and the dark black line with the pink arrow that says floating cover, that shows you how the cover is laying on top of the reservoir itself. They are attached, the floating covers, at the top of the reservoir. It drapes over the slope, and it goes all the way to the bottom. The picture at the bottom is showing you the way that the reservoir is being operated right now. And basically, it shows you how it is protecting around 49 feet of water that are currently below the reservoir. That equates to approximately 65 million gallons of water on average. The reason why it's average is because we do operate it in a particular range. As the reservoir elevation goes down, we make system adjustments, put water back in the reservoir, and the elevation would come up. And then adjustments are made again, and the reservoir goes on what we call outflow. The reason why we need to have this cover, and I know that questions come up many times from different people, is that we are required to comply with federal and state regulations for water quality. Keep in mind, once again, this is a drinking water reservoir that, in addition to providing drinking water, also provides water for the fire hydrants. But the primary duty is a drinking water reservoir, and we're required to comply with these regulations. The regulations are to protect two of them. One is to protect finished water, which is what this is, from having any kind of contamination because they're exposed to the environment, meaning animals, birds, anything that can get into the water and contaminate it. The floating cover protects it. The other regulation that we have to comply with has to do with disinfection byproducts. So in the early 2000s, the federal government promulgated new laws regarding disinfection byproducts. And when we made that change, and what we did is that we went from having a secondary residual of chlorine in the system to something called chloramines. Chloramines is a combination of chlorine and ammonia. And the reason why this is significant is because when you have a chloraminated system like we do now, and if water is in a reservoir or a tank for too long, meaning the water age is quite extensive, what happens is that this chloramine, which is chlorine and ammonia, they basically split apart. And now you actually have what we call free ammonia that sits in the reservoir. That free ammonia is almost like food for bacteria. So it provides conditions that are very susceptible to bacteria in the water. So one of the ways for us to ensure that that doesn't happen is by making sure that the water elevation and the operational range is such that we can see a turnover of the reservoir water on a regular basis. If we were to fill Sunny Nest all the way top to 117 million gallons, what would happen is the water age would increase significantly. And if it does, we will actually have nitrification. If we get to the point that the reservoir nitrifies, in order to correct that, we need to take the reservoir offline, drain a portion of the reservoir, and then we have to add additional chlorine to reconnect the chlorine with the ammonia. We have done this in smaller tanks, and it's quite a challenge. Doing it in a reservoir of this size is even more difficult because you need to make sure that there's proper mixing of all the water with all the new chemicals you're putting in there. I did talk earlier about two regulations. One of the regulations on disinfection byproducts is the reason why we do not use chlorine only to put in the water anymore because of the byproducts it produces. So certainly keeping the water to the highest quality possible, complying with the regulations is very important. And to do so, we operate the reservoir in the range that I mentioned between 54 million gallons and 76 million gallons. So on average, that's around 65 million gallons of water that are in the reservoir. Let's go to the next slide, please. Great. So once again, just reiterating that the Sunny Nest Reservoir is a drinking water reservoir. The cover that we have here is required for us to be able to meet all regulations, both at state and on the federal level. The replacement of the cover is needed due to the repeated tears that we see in the cover. So I want to talk about that a little bit in a minute. We We do need specialized services to design and install this cover. And we are working right now on preliminary planning and conceptual design for replacement. So I can tell you that as of yesterday, the Board of Water and Power Commissioners approved a contract for a design company to design the new floating cover. And hopefully you recall from the previous meeting that we had, the previous town hall, that we're going to put a new floating cover over Sunny Nest Reservoir. That is a short-term solution that we want to implement because we recognize the existing cover is compromised. However, we are looking at more permanent solutions that we're going to be implementing. Right now, my planning team is looking at a variety of options. Some of the options, as I mentioned before, include putting a hard cover over the reservoir. It could be perhaps an aluminum roof or a concrete cover. We're also looking at potentially replacing the Sunny Nest Reservoir with tanks that could be either be placed in the same location or nearby. And the other option we're looking at potentially is building a treatment facility that would allow us to not have to have a floating cover, have the water go through the treatment facility and then into the system. All these options take quite a while to plan, design, and construct. So the idea is that by having now the floating cover replaced with a brand new one, that will give us the time to be able to do the proper engineering and the proper investigation to come up with the best solution. Like I said, our board just approved the contract for design. The designers are going to start working on the new floating cover design in September, in a couple of weeks. They're going to start working on it once the contract is finalized. What we are expecting that will happen is that the design will be completed in an expeditious fashion close to the end of the year. Once it's completed, then we'll secure the contract for somebody to install the floating cover. So we're going to have to drain the reservoir, remove the existing floating cover, install the new one, test it, then be able to fill the reservoir and decontaminate the reservoir and the water that's going to be in there, and then be able to put it in service. If everything goes accordingly, we believe that we can have the reservoir with a brand new floating cover as early as August of 2026. Now, there are some variables. Part of it too is that the floating cover material it is sourced from overseas. So we need to bring that material, purchase it and bring it in. But our goal is to get this replaced as quickly as possible. So we're looking at August 2026 as an early delivery. If it takes a little longer, it'll be closer to the end of the year or beginning of 2027. But our goal is that we want to get it done by August of 2026. Can we go to the next slide? Great. So now we're going to talk about service reconnections. So if you can go to the next slide, great. Thank you very much. So the reason why we have this slide here is because this is a recommendation that LADWP has for its customers. So if we have properties with existing plumbing, what we're asking is that the pipe, the hose bibs, and the faucets that were not damaged in a fire and there are no leaks, then that's great. You can arrange for a plumber, a licensed plumber that is, to verify that your plumbing system at home is working properly and that there's no leaks in the system. We highly recommend replacement of all the customer-owned service lines and plumbing for structures that had significant damage. So if your house had, or your business had damage, and significant damage that is, the recommendation that we're making is that you replace the plumbing from the back of the meter all the way to the house, because most likely the integrity of that, what we call the main line that goes from the meter to your house, is probably compromised. And it would make sense to replace that prior to continue to build in a house or add additional plumbing and still keep the old main line. So this is a recommendation that we're making. You see on the right side of the screen here, or this slide, we have an example to demonstrate to you what we're talking about. So as you can see, you have on the left side the water main. We have the connection to the water main to the service, to the meter itself, which typically sits behind the curb. From the meter into the house, that piece of pipe that you see going to the house is the main. And then it goes to your home where you're going to have your hose bibs and you're going to have your faucets inside your house. So the recommendation, once again, is that if you have significant damage in your property, it's best to replace all the piping all the way up to the back of the meter. So properties without existing plumbing, obviously, you're going to be building everything brand new. We once again recommend that you get a licensed plumber to install all the piping in there, and then to be able to connect to the meter. And once you're ready to connect to the meter, then you need to call DWP for us to be able to activate the meter. So if we can go to the next slide, so you can see a little bit more information there. So if you want to reconnect your service because your property is fine or you've already rebuilt, what you can do is you can either call us at 1-800-DIAL-DWP, or you can go online and you can go through our customer service account and be able to request a reconnection. Once your water service is reconnected, one of the things that we do recommend is flushing your plumbing system for approximately 10 minutes. There's a QR code on the bottom left of this slide that you can go ahead and take a picture, and it actually has guidelines and guides on how to flush your system properly. And I believe that is the last slide for me. And now we are going to hand it over to Dave Hanson from the power system. Thank you.
Thanks, Anselmo. Good evening, everybody. My name is David Hanson. I'm the Senior Assistant General Manager for the Power System for LADWP. I'm Anselmo Collins' counterpart for the Power System. Next slide, please. Oops. I think go back one more, I believe. Okay, so this is an update on the undergrounding work that we are performing that many of you have seen down Sunset Boulevard. The picture to the left is what we refer to as an underground substructure. The holes that you see in the side of that concrete encasement are where the underground conduits would enter the vault, and then the top gets paved over, and all you'll see once that's all said and done with is a round steel, we used to call it a manhole cover, but it's an underground substructure lid. So you can see the middle picture there. That's kind of a glimpse of what the conduit duct bank looks like. What you're looking at right there is an intersection where you have some of the conduits are splitting off to the right and some are splitting off to the left. It's just the way that we run the circuits. You can see the shoring that's required for safe entry for our employees to go in there to perform their work. We do have to have those boards and those braces up anytime we go deeper than 4 feet. So we can make sure our employees are safe from engulfment hazard. So right now, the entire project of just the trunk line that goes down Sunset is approximately 6.5 miles of conduit and trenching work that you're going to see there on Sunset Boulevard. And as of the 24th of this month, we've installed almost 100,000 linear feet of conduit and pipe. 32 of those underground substructures have been set. You can see the dimensions right there. They're 9.5 feet tall, 17.5 feet long, 13.5 feet wide. And Selmo's picture is right in the middle of my last little topic right there, and I don't know how to move it. But it looks like 1.65 miles of trenching overall has been completed. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a picture of the panel that we're requiring. So we have got a lot of questions from the community about when will we be in the residential areas for undergrounding. Right now, our tentative schedule for undergrounding off of Sunset into the residential areas is approximately third quarter of 2026. It does take a significant amount of time to design all of this and do the other installations and the work and equipment procurement. So in the meantime, what we're asking builders to do for anyone that's building a new house to set a meter panel referred to what we call a combo panel. It has an overhead and an underground feed. It's essentially the same panel that you can buy at Home Depot. There's usually an adapter kit for going overhead or an adapter kit for going underground. And then you would run a 3-inch PVC line out to the front of the property. It's got to be a minimum of 3-foot depth. All of this equipment altogether, the electrical panel is the same cost as it would be if you just ran it overhead or underground. But the combo panel is essentially a wash. And then everything all together, we conservatively estimate is about $350 in material that should be able to be absorbed into the rebuilding cost of your property. These are some rough sketches of what the requirements are. We do have this piece of equipment mocked up at the UROC, the Unified Utility Rebuild Operations Center, along with some of the other equipment that's going to be related to the new circuits that we're pulling into the neighborhood once we shift from overhead to underground. So anybody wants to see this stuff for yourself up close and personal, you can swing by the UROC there on Topanga. It is, the address is 3931 South Topanga in Malibu. And that's where we have all of this mocked up. So next slide, please. So again, another rough sketch. We have a lot more detailed drawings available through our service planning and through the UROC. So anybody that has very specific questions, builders that are familiar with electrical, again, please come visit us at the UROC and we'll give you the details. The simple version here is showing the house, showing where the panel would be on the house, and this is for residential, anything up to 400 amps. We just have a PVC conduit. Again, it's 3 inches, minimum of 3-foot depth, ran out to the property line, and then we would plug it at the curb and then come back later when we do the undergrounding, then we'll intercept at that time. So the simple rule of thumb, the maximum length of the run is 120 feet. Anything longer than that, the engineers have to review. Bends, we don't want to see any more than 2 90-degree bends and a max of up to 45, plus a max of up to 45-degree sweep. After that, we would have to have a hand hole to intercept to make the run longer. And again, 3-foot clearance from the side lots, trees. We do need a meter spot and an ESR inspection before you cover it back up. If you're not running underneath a driveway, then you don't need concrete encasement, but all of that can be covered in detail through our meter spot and our ESR inspection process. And then slurry backfill, just what I was talking about. If you go under a driveway, we do require some form of concrete. That's just a commercially available mix, nothing too fancy. Next slide, please. So essentially, when to request a building clearance from LADWP. So if you have a structure that gets closer than 15 feet of existing power lines, think of a balcony in your backyard or any sort of structure that would get within 15 feet, then there's an encroachment application if you plan to build. We submit that. Real estate and encroachment staff will review. Somebody's going to come out to actually look at what it is that we're trying to build. This is particularly a concern when we have an existing property line and say, for example, we are building something new on an existing commercial lot. A lot of times this has to do with stairwells and balconies. And it's all about public safety. We just want to make sure we have governmental requirements, GO 95 regulations, where we can't get anything closer. We have some safety requirements that are set. So we say 15 feet is you're good. Anything closer than that, you're going to have to do an encroachment request, and a pole spotter is going to have to come out, and people are going to have to check it out, exactly what you're building, and review and approve. You can see the email and phone number as well as the website there on the bottom bullet for anybody interested in the encroachment application. Again, this information is available at the UROC and also available at ladwp.com. Next slide, please. So electric service requirements. So essentially everything that's a residential, it would be under the overhead service up to 400 amps, and that's 120, 240 volt, single phase service. Then we just have a meter spot and an ESR come out and you're moving forward. This is for most residential projects. Anything larger than 400 amp, or if you do anything that's 3-phase, if everything is 100% underground, or if you're requesting a non-standard voltage, then you do need a service planning engineer to review. Next slide, please. I just got a text that maybe our number for pole spotting is wrong, so we'll make sure we get that correct number out to the community. And again, the UROC is our one-stop shop for all this information. So overhead residential service requests up to 400 amps. This kind of walks you through what our process is. The customer submits the plans online before construction starts. And then once we receive it, work together and assign a project to one of our electric service reps. That's our meter inspectors that come out to make sure that the meter is correct and where it needs to be. The ESR will review that plan and then they'll schedule the spot with the customer. We usually look at around 2 to 3 weeks to come out and actually visit the site. They check out where we are planning on installing the meter, and then they give the construction requirements to the customer or to the builder. And then once the customer construction is complete or the builder has done the completion, then DWP would release the meter and say, okay, we're ready to install a meter release once the building and safety has come out and done their inspection as well. Then the DWP crews will come out and install the overhead service and energize the meter. Now, again, since we are converting this area to an underground, this is all for reconnection of overhead to your combo panel. And then later when we come back to do the underground service, then we'll obviously be coordinating that with the customers. Next slide. I think this is the same slide. Let's go forward again. Okay, so this is the service request types for engineering review. So this again is for anything that was the non-standard voltage or greater than 400 amps, 3-phase. Then this walks you through the process as well. Customer would submit the plans again before the start of construction. And once we receive the plan, we create the work order. And then this is assigned to a project service planning engineer. The service planning engineer would send approved plans to the customer, and then there would be a pre-construction meeting with the electric service representative. That's our ESR inspector. Once the construction's complete and DWP's released the meter, then the process is similar. We are overhauling our customer interconnection process so that we will have a single point of contact. For our larger non-residential customers, we understand that this has been a pain point for us for many years. So an overhaul of that entire process is way overdue. We're calling it the concierge, new business concierge service. So anybody that's building a large commercial or anything other than residential will have a single point of contact. We won't be handing you off to different groups to do construction and review, and you'll have one person that'll see your project from beginning to end. So we're very excited that that project or that process is going to be in place here very soon. We've hired personnel for these new roles. We're also rolling out some engineering staff to do the planning and scheduling in the operations groups, and we hope to have all of that up and running here in the next month or two. We'll definitely be connecting with the community to shake out the bugs on this and get some feedback so we can do continuous improvement. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's it for me. I know we'll all be hanging out for Q&A at the end of this. And at this time, I'd like to introduce my friend, Joe Romalo. He is our Chief Customer Officer and also the best friend you could ever have right before you go live on a camera. Joe.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. Let's go to the next slide. Appreciate everyone joining this evening. Wanted to take just a couple minutes to give you an update on our billing. As you know, at the last meeting, I had mentioned that we had to clean the meter boxes, do some hazmat remediation at all of them. That was completed. We began billing for our monthly billed customers, which are commercial customers, the last week of July, first week of August. So that first billing cycle for those customers is complete. And we are now at the point where we are reading meters and sending bills out for residential customers in the Palisades. Those meters began being read on Monday, and bills began going out yesterday. In addition to that, last Friday, we mailed a letter out to all residential customers explaining what I'm covering this evening. And we will also have information posted by tomorrow morning on our website that also explains all of this and answers some frequently asked questions about our billing. It is just a little bit complicated, so I want to walk through it just piece by piece for you as quickly as I can. Again, meters have been read, bills will start to go out. The electric portion of your bill will be billed from the last meter read date, which was approximately the end of December, beginning of January, just prior to the fire. It was the last bills that were mailed to the Palisades area through the date of the meter read, which is this week or next week. There will also be a credit for one full billing cycle for your electric service. That's because DWP is only allowed to bill back 3 billing cycles for electric use. So we are required to bill for that electric usage, but we also are applying a full credit for one of the billing cycles. So approximately a quarter of the bill. Their water and wastewater charges are not being billed on this bill. We will not be billing you at all for any of the water used between the last bill you received and the current bill for standing properties. Anybody whose home was destroyed, who we either were contacted by customers or that we were notified through the surveys that were done by the county and by the city, we have removed you from our system. You should not get any charges for any commodities from before the fire through now. If you do, we want you to give us a call, 1-800-DIAL-DWP, or stop by the UROC and we can get it sorted out and corrected. We are the billing agent for LA Sanitation, as you know. So their charges include the wastewater charges, which I mentioned will not be charged, in addition to our water charges. For the sanitation charges, this is the trash and recycling, you will be billed on this bill for it. Last week, we were notified by LA San that they have agreed and will be proceeding with a policy that will not charge for those, for SRF, the solid resource fee, for that entire period of time. We need time to program that into our system. So we're working with IT and our contractor to put that in, and you will receive a credit on a future bill. We're hoping to get it done in the next 2 months, which is the normal residential billing cycle. We or they will let you know when that credit is coming, but please disregard the solid resource fee that you will see on the bill that you should be receiving in the next 10 days if you're a residential customer. In terms of, I think that covers the billing pieces. Happy to answer any questions in the chat or separately afterward. Let's go ahead and proceed to the next part of the presentation. We do have a program that we're offering for customers in Palisades. It's a pilot program. This is for residential and multifamily low-rise construction to help you afford electrification of your appliances or other aspects of your home. So it includes a whole home option. It also includes very specific elements that you might choose, such as whether it's your oven or other pieces of equipment and appliances in your home that you want to switch from gas to electrification. This is a $40 million program over 4 years that we've set aside for it, and it's an application that can be filled out online or on paper. I'll go ahead and switch to the next slide. This includes things like space heating and cooling, cooking, water pumps, whole home batteries, clothes dryers, or water heating. We have information on this on our webpage on the LADWP.com/Palisades page. You can scroll down to the bottom, and the Home LA program has a fact sheet there. We are happy to speak further with you about it if you give us a call at 1-800-DIAL-DWP and get you through to the right staff to be able to walk through and answer any questions that you might have. Next slide. There's specific amounts and incentives per housing unit, both for single family as well as modular housing. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And again, these are the various measures that are included. I do have our Executive Director of Distributed Energy Solutions on the call tonight if there are any specific questions, either in the chat or in the discussion that we can answer. Very much we welcome people to participate in this. It's something we put together very quickly with funding to make available to really give you an option here to, as homes are being rebuilt, as appliances are being replaced, to do so with little help toward that bottom line. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And again, there's additional aspects of this that I won't get into the details now, but are all available on our fact sheet on our website as well. Next slide. Again, this is just an overview of the application process for the home program. We do have some virtual workshops that are coming up to learn more and go in depth on this, August 28th at noon and September 11th at 7 p.m. If there's additional information or requests for a representative to come to any community meetings that you might have or answer any questions, we'd be happy to make someone available for that. But these are 2 workshops that we already have planned, so you can learn more about Home LA. I believe that's the end of my presentation. Stephanie, do I have additional slides there? Just want you to please stay connected with us. We're trying to keep our information updated as quickly as possible on the Palisades webpage. We're also available at the UROC for in-person visits to answer any questions that you might have. I have customer service reps who are available there to help with any billing issues. And if you do receive a bill that it's confusing, you feel that it's wrong, we want you to call us. Please, we know these are very difficult circumstances and times. And we also want you to know that we have shut off any late notices and disconnection notices through the remainder of the year while we get caught up with things like this credit for the solid resource fee, and also make sure that everyone understands the charges that are on their bill, what's included there, and certainly to give a grace period here for payment. So we appreciate your time tonight. Happy to answer questions as they come, and we'll take a look at the chat as well. So thank you very much, Council Member, for having us.
All right, DWP, thank you so much for the very substantive and comprehensive update and recap from last time. Really appreciate some of the in-depth information, which answered some of the questions that I already had. Although there's one that I wanted to ask, and this came from a constituent who asked, one of the big concerns among neighbors with respect to undergrounding is the plan to place above ground transformers every 8th home. Every other section of the Palisades that already has underground power has these transformers in vaults underground. So neighbors would like to know why that is not the first option. It seems some people may prefer power poles to having to have the box on a lawn. So can you walk us through that a little bit, or offer us any clarity if there are other alternatives that we may be able to consider?
Sure. So we have design standards for the different distribution system, our subtransmission system, transmission. It's all different categories of voltage. It's different classifications of equipment. And we have standards that we use to install all of this. It's based on regulations. It's based on safety standards. It may be also partially driven by accidents that we've had where folks were injured, and we've had to make some changes in how we design. So as it stands right now, what we've told everybody is that we can't switch in underground vaults. So we would not put a switch underground, and we would put the transformer above ground. Now, as we start to meet with the vendors and review technology, and we're working all of this out through our various workforce groups, our safety committees, we're finding that there are some solutions that we may be able to put our switches underground and actually switch them from above ground. So now you wouldn't have to look at it, and then we don't have to enter the vault to switch it. We can switch it from up top, much like you see a water meter. You'll see someone come out with a big T-handle, and they'll operate a valve that's underground, but they're not entering, they're not going down into a vault to switch that. There might be a solution like that out there. As far as the transformer going above ground, that area has a tendency for the underground substructures to fill up with water. So we are meeting with the vendors to see what's available out there. We're meeting with the fellow utilities to see what they're doing with their 12,000 volt transformers. And if we can figure out a way to put everything underground, we will. Right now, with the equipment that we see and meeting our standards, we're looking at transformers called a pad mount, which would be above ground, and that's been the ugly green box we've been telling everybody that we would have to put every 8 or 10 houses, and that's what we have mocked up at the UROC. Today we did discuss bending on a long standing policy that we've had about no decoration on these boxes, but through modern technology and our ability to track on GPS information and digital maps, we may not have the same issues that we used to have. So we think we can flex on the beautification of these things. And then that would be a standard that we would relax for the whole service area, not just the Palisades. It would just be driven by the Palisades. So right now, nothing is off the table. We've said all along our goal is 100% undergrounding, and we're working with vendors and we're working with partner utilities and our safety committees to make that a reality. And that's still our goal.
Dave, thank you for that and for that reassurance. And I'm glad that you've reaffirmed that the commitment is to do this fully and to the extent possible. But I wanted to share some feedback with you that I've received from customers at various periods throughout the process, including recently, as they have encountered workers on the streets and in their neighborhoods and asked questions about undergrounding. It seemed like they were oftentimes getting confused information or perhaps misinformation. I heard of statements like, we don't actually have a plan to do undergrounding, things like that. And so I think it has fueled a lot of confusion and speculation. And so I'm sharing that just by way of saying again publicly tonight to the community in this open platform that this is the commitment. But I also want to make sure that, you know, that the direction and that is flowing down to folks on the street. But if people, residents or their contractors are having conversations out in the field and they don't feel like they're getting the correct information or the right answer, where else can we direct them?
Okay, great question. So we did have an issue like that recently where we had some field employees out there interacting with members of the public in the Palisades. And I know Councilwoman Park, you and I were on these emails that we got concerns from the community. So I think we failed to properly educate our employees on what the intentions and the communications were. A lot of times we have these high level meetings and we'll drag managers in the room and we negotiate all these things and talk about it and come out of there with a plan. What we forget often is that our frontline employees are the ones that are working in folks' backyard. They're immediately interacting with the public, and those are our best communicators in the neighborhood. So we have to do a better job getting the information out to the frontline employees. So I'll take the hit for that. And we are putting some communication programs together so we can make sure everybody's all on the same page. The UROC is our best one-stop shop. If you're in the area, swing by there and they'll have the most up-to-date information. We hired a full-time manager for this as a deputy incident commander for Palisades, Mr. Theo Zeiss, and he does spend a lot of time at the Palisades, the UROC. So that is an invaluable resource for where we're going. We are going to put out some educational FAQ type of documents too, so that the community can understand our processes and have all the right contact information. We're also talking about a survey and some mock-up equipment. One of the ideas one of our executive team had earlier was to actually mock up these pieces of equipment and pick the first street that we have the most complete design and go set our little mocked up boxes and build out a whole street so that everybody could see exactly what we're talking about.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And I think that segues to my final question, and then let's open it up to community. They have their own questions. They're not here to listen to me. But this relates to how we are going to pay for the undergrounding. And, you know, I have certainly heard from many ratepayers and your customers, and certainly you have too, concerns that this is ultimately something that may be passed on to them. And I know that as things have unfolded over the last number of months, you know, all of us in our various ways and capacities have been looking at funding strategies for the long-term investments that are necessary in the infrastructure. So I was wondering if you can share with us, have we identified funding sources and what is that going to look like?
So that's, you know, as part of our, we provide reliable, resilient power, and it has to be safe for the public and safe for our employees. But one of the things that sets us apart as a municipality that we're very proud of, it's got to be affordable. And so affordability is very much on everyone's minds. And in the case of a devastation like this, where's the money coming from? And right now, the way our rates are set up, we haven't had a rate case or a rate action in many years. So anything that we do that affects, that we would essentially pass through to the customer, it affects everyone. So we're very sensitive to that when we look at what we're going to put in the budget and how we're going to do these construction projects. The sunset portion of the project that's moving forward now was already in the budget for 2 or 3 years from now. So we just accelerated that. It was already in the budget. We moved something else out to accommodate that so we could do that work. What's not in the budget is the residential work. So all in all, the rough estimate at this point is just under $1 billion to do 100% undergrounding in the Palisades. The number we have is about 800,000, but I think give or take, estimates, it's still just south of $1 billion. So as we're working for the recovery, there's two different mechanisms that FEMA has for reimbursement. There's a rebuild reimbursement that public agencies are able to utilize, and that's us. And then there's now the hazard mitigation funding. So all of the residential undergrounding we've submitted to FEMA for reimbursement for hazard mitigation. So we're happy to say that we've submitted all of those requests. We've got a lot of winks and thumbs up from FEMA. Nothing is for sure, but as it looks right now, we're really looking good for our FEMA reimbursement. I know the city has put together some other reimbursement costs, and I want to say it comes out to the neighborhood of around $2 billion for total city reimbursement for hazard mitigation and recovery. And DWP, we're about 800 to $1 billion of that. So the residential portion of it is going to be reimbursed by FEMA is our hope and our expectation.
Great. That is a great update. It's a positive sign and something that we are all going to continue to advocate for. Okay, I think you answered already the other questions I had. I'm going to turn it over to Team CD11 to take the questions from the chat.
Thank you, Councilwoman and DWP team. And I see there's a few of them that have already been answered. So right now, one of the questions we got, team, is can DWP commit to an expedited quick claim process to avoid additional delays for homeowners?
So I know we are, and Joe, feel free to jump in here as well. I know we're working with real estate to come up with a standard way that we can expedite all of this because we're going to have to do it in such bulk. It's a lot like building a new community where it would all be done with one developer all in one fell swoop. So we're looking at expediting that and standardizing that process to try to cut some time off. I know the city and the mayor and Councilwoman Park are very aware of the I hate to use the term bottlenecks, but our process oftentimes a lot of roads intersect at the same desk, the same process, the same email account, and it takes time to work our way through these things. In a situation like the Palisades, where we're doing essentially building a new community, we think we can get some efficiencies at scale because there's going to be so many coming in at once, and they should be reasonably standard, and we're looking to expedite that. Joe, anything you want to add, feel free.
I don't have additional information on the quick claim process, but we can certainly follow up as well and share information.
Thank you, David. And again, some of these are a little more technical, so I'm literally just reading them. Will the Huntington area that is already underground in the 4.8 kilobit system, will that automatically roll over to a 12 kilobyte system, or what is involved?
I can't say off the cuff that I'm familiar exactly with what Huntington area this is, but we have been talking about doing a conversion for many years to upgrade our entire 4.8 kV, essentially our 4.8 thousand volts. We'll just call it a 5,000 volt system. So we've been looking at upgrading our 5,000 volt system to a 12,000 volt system. and we've had a lot of meetings and we're stuck because trying to convert everything was going to be a huge challenge in the downtown area. That's why we don't already have 12,000 volts. In this, what we've decided to do is just create an additional voltage. So any of the service areas that have 5,000 volts, and then our higher voltage circuits that run through there are 35,000 volts, we'll just be adding this 12,000 volt system onto those poles. So we would put new load on the 12 kV system, and then the 4.8 kV system would start to see at least some sort of relief from that. In the case of the Palisades, it is going to be a conversion because we had the 5 kV there, and we'll now be changing all of that over to 12 kV. We'll have to engineer it neighborhood by neighborhood, but as far as what the customers will experience, you're not going to see a difference. I mean, reliability and not having to build DS-104 there by Marquez Elementary School, that's the benefit, raising the roof there, Councilwoman Park. That's the benefit of the 12,000 volt system, but the residents will still get 12240. It won't change the end user voltage. But that was probably, I'm sorry, I'm not, it's probably more technical than we really wanted to get into on this, but I believe we're going to phase it in separate stages to DS-29 on Sunset, the historical white building that's right there. That'll be our first 12 kV system. And then DS-99, that's at the top of the hill in the residential area, that will come later.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Next question is, how will you let everyone who is rebuilding know about the program and other resources available? What additional types of support are you planning to help residents get through the barriers of rebuilding all electric and help gain access to support and crucially education so that they have widespread knowledge about the numerous benefits of all electric rebuilds?
So the UROC is the best one-stop shop if you want to stop by and actually talk to some folks. We've got engineering folks there, inspectors, construction folks are using that as a relay base as well. So that's your best place to swing by and actually have a conversation with somebody. We do still have the LADWP.com, 1-800-DIAL-DWP. And then there's also a UROC email address that we'll have to email out to the group. I don't have it in front of me. But the part of that question about education is something that occupies a lot of our minds lately. I don't think utilities in general have done a good job educating the youth in the school systems, educating the public. I think we talk about things in a confusing way. I'm probably doing it right now. So we have a lot of work ahead of us for regaining trust and being able to explain exactly what the issues are that affect the power system and how it affects the customers. At the end of the day, it's about the safety, the affordability, the reliability, and the resiliency. So everything that we're doing, we have to make sure that it's because of those reasons and that we explain it in an easy to understand way. So UROC and then our online resources.
And I would just add, in terms of the Home LA program, we will be putting ads in community newspapers and wanting to share that through various media outlets and community members, our neighborhood council lists. We'll work with the council office to get the materials to your office as well, ma'am, so that you can share that information with your residents. We'd love for them to participate in the program.
Awesome. Thank you. This is also tied to the UROC, and I think it might have been answered in the chat, but is it possible to get a designated Palisades UROC phone number, especially for our seniors here in our community?
I believe there is one. Let me come back to that. I'll text somebody while we're online right here. I know we have a dedicated email address, but let me get that and then I'll put it out right here this evening.
Thank you, David. And I think Arus and the team can add it in the chat for everyone. All right, thank you. Let me see. Also, will you expect undergrounding designs for power lines and vaults from an applicant or utility consultant?
Could you say that again? I'm not exactly sure.
Will you accept undergrounding designs for power lines and vault from an applicant or utility consultant?
We have the process for submittals for residential. Essentially, as long as we follow the same process, we would accept. If I'm understanding the question, I think, are we saying, does it have to be from a contractor and not just an owner occupant? Maybe that's the question. We would submit it to the way we would submit, way we would accept any submittal for a meter spot. Just follow those processes that we put down on the slides, and then we have the web link. I don't know if I'm answering the question right.
Well, thank you, David. You answered as best you could. I'm just reading it as it comes in. I'm sorry. And then this goes back to the reservoir cover. Is can we remove the cover and make it a normal reservoir? I'm assuming they're talking about San Ynez as part of the presentation.
Yes, I'll address that question. So if we remove the cover and basically just have it open to the atmosphere, it would no longer meet the requirements that we have from a water quality perspective. Any reservoir that we have currently in service that is providing drinking water has a cover on it. Either has a roof or it has a cover on it right now, because we are required to protect the water from, once again, things like animals and birds entering the water and contaminating it. So if we were to remove the cover, we would have to then install or build some kind of filtration and treatment system that as the water leaves, then you're retreating the water. This is water that was treated already, so it's finished water, it's drinking water. But once it enters an open reservoir, it's no longer considered a potable source of water. So we would have to retreat it to put it back into the system. So right now we have 6 reservoirs in the system that have these floating covers. And they're all there for the same exact reason. The one reservoir that does not have a floating cover, but it does have shade balls, is LA Reservoir. But LA Reservoir, the reason why it doesn't have floating cover, because of the size, it would have to be the world's largest floating covers. And based on the location where it is, the concern would be that it's a wind tunnel in that area. But we do have an ultraviolet disinfection facility that we built that as the water leaves the LA Reservoir, it basically gets UV'd, which means it's being re-disinfected. And then we add chemicals to the water again. So that's the reason why just removing the cover is not as simple as that. And once again, it is a drinking water reservoir.
Thank you. Next question. Can we get some answers on the reason why the Santa Monica Canyon homes have experienced lengthy power outages for 16 up to 18 hours without any communication from DWP? A notice went out to Upper Canyon residents that they will be out of power from 6:30 a.m. until 4 p.m. tomorrow. Can we get an explanation?
That is more than likely planned work and planned outages. When we notify the community ahead of time proactively, it's because we're making a repair or we are interconnecting a circuit and we have to take it offline to be able to do the connection and then tape it all back up, insulate it, and then we turn it back on. We have had some cable in that area that's damaged because of all the devastation. There was some outages on one of the circuits out of DS29, and it kept affecting the same customers while we were trying to track down that fault on the cable. So this outage that they're just sent the notification out is so that we can do those repairs and regain that reliability. And also, to visit the previous question, the email address for the UROC, thank you, Patrick Horton, for emailing that, is Palisades Rebuild, all one word, no space, at LADWP.com. Palisades Rebuild at LADWP.com.
Juan, if I could jump in for a quick minute, there is one question that I was curious about. Will we be able to get new smart meters for water and electric for rebuilds?
That's our favorite thing these days. So we just had a board presentation a couple weeks ago where we unveiled our our priority list, our published top 10 priority list that we're very proud of. And on that list is the Palisades rebuild and our outage management system, which is tied closely to automated metering. So electric meters exist. We have not rolled them out as quickly as we should have. That was what we created a whole new division for last year and hired. Many of you have had an opportunity to meet Mr. John Vanacore. He's the director of that automated metering division, and he's been able to take us from no automated meters to a handful of meters hooked up, transmitting, and billing. So now next month, we start the deployment for automated metering, AMI, and we're going to continue. Our boss has given us the challenge to be completed with 100% rollout by end of next year. Everyone's head is still spinning from that, but that's our marching orders. So we're coordinating closely with the union and seeking outside guidance from contractors and developers to see what challenges we're going to have to overcome to be able to get that deployed. We will have an updated outage management system in place approximately April of next year. And as we continue to roll out these automated meters, it'll just improve that outage management system more and more. The same group is also looking at water meters, but I'll kick it to Anselmo so you can talk about that.
Thanks, Dave. So when it comes to water meters and smart meters, the stories are just a little different, because with water meters, the challenge is that you have to have a battery because there's no line power going to the water meter. We are looking at it. Our CEO has made clear that her expectation is that we are going to be also having smart meters for water. I'll tell you right now, the technology that exists basically limits the life of a smart water meter to around 10 years or so, and that's it. What happens after that, the battery dies, you have to replace the entire meter because the battery is incorporated into the body of the meter itself. But we are looking constantly for new technologies that provide us a longer life. We have been talking to folks that have installed smart meters in their areas, and I can tell you that I spoke to one general manager in a different state where he basically says that he has to replace 15% of all his meters every single year just to keep up with it. In the city of Los Angeles, we have 700,000 meters. So if I had to do 15% every year, that means 100,000 meters would have to be replaced every single year. But we are confident that obviously with technology changes and everything else, the folks that work on these type of meters are looking for a longer battery life that will give us the opportunity to properly install them and be able to know that we're going to have accurate meter information for quite a while. Currently, our meters get replaced roughly every 30 years because after that, we realize that they start to under-register and not read properly. And that's 30,000 meters we do. We will have to triple that if we go to smart meters. The other thing with smart meters is that a lot of the components are plastic. So for example, in this particular instance, if we had plastic meters, there's a chance that the meter itself or the valve that closes the meter could have melted, which meant we would have not had the ability to shut off the meters manually like we had to do after the fire. They're almost 5,000 meters. But we are looking at it. We're trying to work with as many vendors as possible to push the envelope and get a longer life battery that we know we're going to get a reliable meter that we can put into the system.
All right, Anselmo, thank you for that. So mixed bag on it, better sounding news on the power side than on the water side, but I'm sure you all will keep pushing forward with it. Two more quick questions. One, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask, because AECom is here, and this is something that I have discussed with them and asked for their assistance and leadership on, and it is something that we have certainly talked about, CD11 and DWP, but any updates on if the other utilities, internet, comms, etc., are looking at coming underground with us?
So we just met with AECom yesterday. We have the Office of Emergency Management here. Our chief, Zoraya, and her team have been closely coordinating with them. We had another meeting this afternoon where we were talking about making sure that we're all on the same page with AECom, because they're out there constantly and they're getting a lot of feedback with all of the smaller communities. They were talking about the different community leadership that they're having meetings. They talked about having an in-person discussion with all of those folks at the UROC. So we are in close cahoots with them and make sure that our messaging matches. For the subject of water meters that may not exist yet, we do have a new R&D team that we just stood up. So they're constantly looking at new technology as well across the department. So we've got everybody looking in all directions, and then we're closely partnering with AECom for our communication to the community as well. We look forward to doing some events like this in person out there at the UROC facility.
Good, good. Well, we have this really kind of once in a lifetime opportunity to do this all in one fell swoop. So appreciate the consistent leadership on this. Another question that I've seen come up a lot: what approvals and consents are you going to need to get from the neighborhoods? Can one neighbor that holds out prevent an entire street or block from being able to go underground?
That's a great complex question. So
I
we
figured.
yes, ma'am. So we've said all along, our goal again is 100% undergrounding, but we knew that our challenge was going to be communicating this effectively with the community. Initially, we got a lot of holdouts from the telecom companies because they're not public entities. So the money that they have spent in recovery and rebuilding their telecommunications system in that area, they can't go to FEMA and get paid back for that. So now if we tell them, hey, you have to go underground, how are they going to pay for that? They're all, investor owned entities. So that's very much on their minds. As you are well aware, Councilwoman Park, the county and the governor's office have issued various letters strongly urging all of us to go underground. So we have met several times with the telecom companies to figure out what accommodations we can make for them to help them lower their costs. This is where the idea came from for us to bust up the street once, try to do everything all at once, and then close it up and walk away. We're trying to coordinate with, internally between power and water isn't as much of a challenge, but the gas companies and the telecom companies. So we're looking at doing some variances to our design for underground conduit that we can do at the same time as ours for the telecom companies. We've offered that to them. They haven't yet taken us up on that. We do also have fiber optic cable that we have to pull in for our system, and we have available bandwidth on those circuits that we could lease to the telecom companies. So we have 2 or 3 different options for them. The third option, which nobody likes, is that we cut the top of the power pole off and turn it into a telephone pole and just leave it to the telecom companies. That, in my opinion, and the opinion of all my fellow executive leadership team, and I can tell you, Councilwoman Park, by your shaking your head on camera, we don't like that, because now the property line poles will remain, and then we'll also be asking the public for property in the front yard for us to possibly put one of our boxes. So we know that that would be a negative impact to the community. We don't want to do that. So that's why we're hoping they will join us underground. The last few meetings that we've had with the telecom and the communications that we're seeing, it does look like the direction is going to be for the county and the state to be forcing them to go underground with us. That's our expectation, and we're going to be accommodating them to do that.
Awesome. Thank you, David. I'm going to ask you this one's, I can kind of put 2 or 3 of these kind of together, I think. It's how do we know the main line in our street and the connectors from the meter to the main line are not compromised? And can we just simply turn on the meter to see if we have service? And lastly, and to see if we have service and to test the line to the hose bit.
That sounds like a water question, I believe.
It is a water question, unless you want to answer it, Dave.
No,
But
no, thank you. I
Yeah.
barely understand electricity.
So there were a couple of questions, three questions there, but the first question as to how can you figure out if your pipe has been if it's undermined now, and this is the pipe that goes from the meter to the house. The best thing to do is to hire a licensed plumber to test it. Keep in mind that because of the fire, those lines are probably exposed to extreme heat. A lot of the plumbing that folks have at home is probably going to be plastic pipe, and consequently, it was exposed to a lot of heat. So a plumber can assess that properly to tell you if the pipe is compromised or not. On the DWP side of the meter, we typically do not use plastic pipe, no service connections. We actually use ductile iron pipe or steel pipe, a lot of steel pipe in that area as well. And then we have copper that we use to run to the meter itself. And that's part of what we tested. That's been pressurized for most of the time that after the fire. I think 2 weeks after, the whole system was pressurized. So we know that it is working and that properly. Now, obviously, as folks start to rebuild, if they need to reconnect the water, they're going to have to call us for that. We'll be able to go and reconnect the service, make sure everything is working appropriately. But if there's any concerns with the plumbing on the customer side, the recommendation is to seek the advice of a plumber, a licensed plumber that can do a good analysis to ensure that your plumbing is working properly. Did I miss one of the parts of the question there?
I think you covered it. Because the other one was how do they test their hose bib, but I think you covered that as well. Next is, well, and I think you might have covered it, but we'll ask it again in case anyone got here a little late. Will there be any additional rates added to the rest of the service area to cover the costs of undergrounding and the Palisades? And how expensive will it be? And for how long could we see these rate increases?
So that's what we're trying to avoid. You know, we have the way our rates are set up is there are pass-through costs. If we have something that meets certain qualifications, then it is a pass-through to the ratepayer. We're avoiding that by having the FEMA reimbursement funds come in. And if that ends up not getting approved, then we would definitely be transparent with the community and make sure everybody understands. Part of Tracy's question earlier too, or Councilwoman Tracy Park, sorry about that, was the question about can there be a single holdout on a neighborhood? Right now, yes, because this is not an undergrounding district. So there has not been a council motion and an approval. So Rule 20 doesn't apply where we come in and say, all right, this is now an undergrounding district. We're going to underground everybody's power and you have to pay for it. It goes on your property tax bill. We're avoiding all of that. We're doing this as hazard mitigation and using FEMA reimbursement. So if we get pushback from the community, we do have to resolve that because there's no way for us to force this on the community, and we wouldn't want to do that anyway. We're doing this because this is mutually beneficial. It's essentially rebuilding an entire community. This is a high hazard fire threat area, obviously. So we want to come in and harden the system with the most advanced technology that we can. But if somebody is adamantly opposed to this, we'll attempt to work it out and resolve it. That's where I think the survey comes in and the community engagement. What's really going to be impacted are people's houses who weren't affected by the fire. And if we come in and say, we want to underground, now that is going to be much more than a $300 or $400 undergrounding cost because you're not talking about digging a hole and putting in conduit. You're talking about possibly tearing up sidewalks and driveways, and that could be a significant cost to the homeowner. So we're very sensitive to that, and we'll be in close communication with all of those homeowners as we start to move into those neighborhoods. We're going to be targeting the residential neighborhoods that were most affected by the fire first, so we do have time to work all this out. We'll know what FEMA is going to look like here within the next few months or so. So we'll have a lot more information when it comes to dealing with that.
Awesome, thank you. I have another question. It's going to be expensive to replace the water line from the meter to the house. Is there a specific reason why you are suggesting it be replaced?
The main reason why we are suggesting, and it's once again just a recommendation, is because we are concerned that one, the structural integrity of that line might be compromised. And two, to make sure that you don't have any either volatile organic compounds or benzene that could have been stuck there. Especially, and once again, we're talking about homes where, or structures where there was significant damage to the facility. If there wasn't any damage and your piping is intact, then obviously there's no need to do it. But these are for folks who are going to be rebuilding a good portion of the property. That's a recommendation. But the best thing to do is get a plumber to inspect it. It's not a mandate, it's a recommendation just to make sure that as you invest in rebuilding, that you don't then have a portion of your water supply system that might be undermined and cause a problem later on.
All right, and Samo, I am going to ask a question. I've seen this repeated a couple of times. Do you guys have a document, or can people access specs for water and electrical connections that they can pass on to their builders? Is that information available somewhere?
We have information as far as the water meters themselves, because we're not plumbers. When it comes to the specifications for your home itself, that is not something that we have. That will be something more to get from building and safety. They can provide recommendations there. The information that we have will talk about meter installation and the size of meter that, depending on the size of meter that you require and for the function that you require it.
All right.
So for the electrical side, we do have the electric service requirement. I just did a quick Google search to make sure it would come up. So it's the ESR manual. So just Google LADWP ESR manual, and it comes up as the top return, and it's 312 exciting pages of all the electrical drawings you could ever possibly want to look at. And that most commercial developers are familiar with this. But for the residential in this area, this may be new, so it's available online.
All right, that sounds like a whole lot of pages. Another question is for the electrical connection boxes, the ones that you showed us before that have both the above ground and the below ground connectors. Is there a location on the house those needs to be? And then what do you suggest for a house on a corner that doesn't know yet whether the connection's going to be a side yard or a front yard? It's expensive for them to have to do multiple locations. Any advice?
Yes, so the meter spot service, when they apply for their construction request through the process that we outlined on the slides, when the meter spot service happens, when that person comes out to visit, they'll show them where they need to set the panel, and then they'll show them which curb that they need to send the underground conduit out to.
Okay. All right. Are pole dips allowed for residential homes such that no overhead lines are needed?
So they're talking about if you look at a power pole, you'll see a piece of conduit coming down the side of it, and that's where the overhead converts into an underground. That's something that we do, but that's not our goal. Our goal is we are going to have to connect it through the overhead for now, and then we'll come back and do the underground on the front yard. This will help us get rid of the property line pole line once telecom comes off that pole. So that wouldn't be our preference to do that, but again, talk with your representative when they come out there to do the meter spot, and maybe that's something that you can work out. There definitely be an additional charge for that.
Okay, thanks for that. One of the things that I'm seeing all over the Palisades are all the new frames going up and all the lots being fenced, getting ready to break ground. And we are just at the very beginning opening phase of what is going to be the largest construction zone in our city's history. And I am reading here in the chats concerns about, will the need for inspectors become a bottleneck?
So we do have staff that's dedicated to the Palisades. The inspectors at this time, we don't expect that to be the bottleneck. It's been our on design because we've got so many other major projects, but staffing across the board is our number one challenge in the power system internally. So we'll definitely be looking at filling all vacancies and making sure that we maintain full staffing levels to stay ahead of this project for the next few years.
Everyone, I
Thank
did
you.
not mean to sneeze into your Zoom. My apologies.
It's okay. I'll take this next question, Councilwoman. People are getting rejected for their encroachment application, and a lot of the rejections are due to the temporary poles that have been installed. How is this being rectified so people can start construction?
That's a good question. So, all of the poles that we built back into the area, for the most part, are permanent poles built to permanent construction standards. If somebody has a construction site where they've requested temp power, then we can come out and set temp poles. But a temp pole looks very obvious that it's temporary. If these are power poles that look like normal power poles that are set in locations, they have to follow the encroachment process, and then obviously we could take that feedback at the UROC, and we can get somebody out there to walk through the job site and resolve that issue and that conflict. And again, the encroachment process, we understand that there are issues with predated construction in the area that with updated regulations may no longer be allowed, and we're very sensitive to that. So we're paying close attention to the encroachment process so we can try to give as many variances as we can, but we have to also keep an eye on public safety and employee safety. These high voltage power lines, we just don't want anybody to come into contact with them, and there's specific regulations to keep people safely away. We understand that may be an unfortunate impact, but we'll work with the community the best we can.
Thank you. Another more technical question, so I'm just reading it. If you need a service planning engineer involved for anything that is larger than 400 amp, is LADWP dedicated to help expedite these requests? And what's the estimated timing?
We don't have an estimated timing right now, but we do have dedicated staff and we're building out these groups. We have engineering training programs that we met with today to talk about how can we maximize the occupancy in our training programs to try to graduate as many folks as possible. We've added a bunch of new positions this year. Our company operates on the fiscal year, so as of July 1, it's a new year for us. And we were able to add 515 new positions to the power system, many of which are engineering staff that'll be directly involved. And like I talked about earlier, with our new top 10 priority projects that have come out and been publicized, that's what we're using to justify where we're going to spend our money and focus our resources. So that means lower priority jobs will be deferred in favor of this.
Thank you. And I know we're to keep us a little bit on time for sure. And there were a few more questions about undergrounding, and I'll ask one of them right now. And Councilwoman, I'll send it back to you. But as we mentioned earlier, there will be a more specific town hall with DWP that'll go deeper into the undergrounding. I know they're still working through a lot of logistical things on the back end for them to be able to come back with some of this information. Again, another undergrounding above ground question is, if above ground boxes are required, when will residents find out where these boxes will be located? And would they be in parkways or on residential lots? It would be helpful to know this during the reconstruction process.
Yes, great question. So right now, the earliest that we think we would be beginning construction, and it's a tentative date, obviously, is third quarter of 2026. So roughly this within a 12 or 13 months from now. The design is happening now. So as soon as we have the design, we're going to send that information to the community through the UROC so that people can see where the overlays are for where we think we need to place these individual transformers. Right now, our rough estimate is every 8 to 10 houses will take an above ground transformer in the front yard in some way, shape, or form. We're designing to that. unless we run into an opportunity with a vendor to find a new piece of equipment where we don't need to put anything above ground. But right now we're operating with what we have and what's available. So as soon as we have that design, we'll put that overlay and the UROC so people can come by and see exactly where it is that we're planning on putting these pieces of equipment. And then we would look at mocking them up and picking the first street, like we talked about earlier, and setting these mocked up pieces of equipment so everybody can kind of get a real idea of what it is that we're looking at.
All right, Dave, thanks for that. Another question for you. How will the poles be removed when new homes are already built? And how will this impact new walls or fences in the rear yard easements?
So we do have a right of entry and an easement for these property line poles anyway. And even if it was a telephone pole only or a telecommunication pole only, there still is a minimum requirement that's based on us being able to have access to the backyard to set that pole. So for example, if it was just a telephone pole and it were to come down for some reason, the companies still have to be able to get the piece of equipment into that backyard, and it looks like a wagon if it's not something we can drive a vehicle up to, and they have enough room to be able to get that pole in the backyard so they can reset it. So that easement that we have, or that right of entry, that right of way, would be how we would get those poles out of there. If we take them down all at once, it would more than likely be us. If we top those poles and cut the top off and turn it into a telecom pole and then come back later, then it might be the telecom companies coming in there, because at that point we would relinquish that pole to the telecommunication company, and then it would be their responsibility to remove. But once they come down, then we can, release that property easement, and then there would no longer be a need for it.
All right, thanks for that, David. And, I just wanted to remind folks in the call that, when we talked about the undergrounding originally in our first town hall a few weeks back, I think we all recognized that there were going to be some complications and some challenges that we are going to have to work through as a community and as a utility and as a city, related to new infrastructure and easements and rights of way. And we know that there are going to have to be some trade-offs in exchange for this massive, massive undertaking. So I know folks still have some questions about what all of those plans and designs are going to look like. And, is your house going to possibly be one of the 8 or every other 8 or so that may have to host some of the infrastructure? So we want everybody to know that we are going to continue to stay on deck and help facilitate the process as we move forward with this. And we know that there will be some difficult conversations around that. I want to be mindful and respectful of everyone's time. It seems to me like we have gotten most of the questions. I'll ask a final one, Juan, unless you see anything else that we did not substantively cover. I do want to mention to folks that this meeting tonight has been recorded. We will put it out in our newsletter. You can send that link to your friends and neighbors who perhaps were not here or not able to participate tonight. And we look forward to continuing to bring these kinds of information sessions to you. I hope that they are helpful. My final question before I kick it over to Juan to say our final goodnight. Please confirm that Rustic Canyon, Santa Monica Canyon communities will also be undergrounded. They note sometimes it feels as though it gets forgotten that they are the Palisades too, and that they were also impacted by the fire.
I believe they are included in this. We'll check with the maps and make sure that the UROC has the most up-to-date map of where we're planning on undergrounding. And we'll also send that out to the council district office to make sure everybody has the information. I believe they are, but we'll double check for sure and send that out.
All right, fantastic. And Juan, I'm going to give you a chance to ask any wrap-up questions. Folks who are still in the chat, if you did not get your question answered tonight, please reach out to us and the DWP team. We are more than happy to take any one-offs or, any extra complicated or more technical questions. And if you haven't had an opportunity to drop by the UROC, I would highly recommend that you do that going forward if we have any other questions that you want to direct directly to DWP. Juan, anything else that you want to close us out with tonight?
Just one question that came up a lot, but just to add to your last point, Councilwoman, yes, reach out to the DWP team, UROC, and also your field deputy, Aruz Gregorian. As she's working with everyone and trying to be that conduit on the ground 24/7. So just include her as well to see what we can do to further assist. One last question that I saw come up a few times as we were discussing, again, back to underground and above ground, and we'll end it with that real quick, is why on private property and not public right of way?
Yeah, great question. So the Bureau of Engineering owns the right of way, or I'm sorry, the public right of way. So like we talked about earlier, nothing is off the table. We're meeting with all the different city entities and the developers to see if there are some variances that we can do for the community. But at this time, the information based on our design standards and based on our past practice, we're looking at the system the way that we've described it for tonight. But we're continuing to meet with the unions, the employees that actually perform this work, and the other city groups. We've got a lot of interested folks from the mayor's office and the council districts, making sure that we're all working together as different city family to try to lessen the impact to the community.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, we want to respect everyone's time, and we're a little bit over on that end. So we want to thank everyone. Unless Councilwoman, I'll give you the last few words to send us home. And I want to thank DWP and Arus and everyone that really worked hard behind the scenes to make this happen. And we look forward to seeing you all again next month. Councilwoman?
All right, thanks, Juan, and thank you again, DWP, for the very informative presentation and taking time to answer many of these questions. I know we did not get to every single one of them, so again, if there was a question that we didn't get answered tonight, please email DWP and feel free to copy my team so that we can make sure that you get an answer. As I mentioned at the top of the meeting, we have a number of these additional webinars in the lineup for you. We hope that you will continue to join us for those as we continue to dive deeper and deeper into some of these big questions around our rebuilding and our infrastructure. Very, very much looking forward to bringing you city departments as well to offer their advice on mistakes to avoid and best practices to get through the permitting process as quickly as possible. In the meantime, always know that we are here in CD11 to help to address issues as quickly and efficiently as we can. Consider us a resource and feel free to lean on us if there is anything that we can do to be of assistance. We know this is an incredibly challenging time, and we know and understand that this is an education that none of you asked for. So we appreciate you, and we are here to help in every way that we can. And with that, we will say goodnight. We'll see you the next time around. Thanks, everyone.
Night.